Hello, welcome to the Wiser Center webinar. This monthly series was created to help patients and their families cope with the social and emotional challenges of living with food allergy. I am the clinical social worker on our team, and in my role, I provide patients and families tools to manage allergy-related anxiety and navigate challenges from diagnosis through adulthood. My role was initially established through a gift from the Wiser Center. We are proud to provide a holistic approach to managing food allergy with a team comprised of an allergist, nurse educator, dietitian, research coordinator, and counselor. The center was recently named a Discovery Center of Distinction by the advocacy group FAIR in recognition of their advances into biomedical research, looking for the origin and better treatment for food allergy. Visit uofmfoodallergy.org to hear more about our center. Our conversation today would not be complete without your participation. Please send your questions using the Q&A function. We'll be taking them throughout the hour. Today, we are thrilled to have industry experts, Chef Ji Hye Kim and Laura Wonch from Zingerman's Community of Businesses in Ann Arbor, Michigan. They'll share advice for allergy-safe dine-in and carry-out food service. Ji Hye is the chef and managing partner of Miss Kim's, a Korean restaurant greatly influenced by Korean ancestors and Michigan farmers. A graduate of the University of Michigan, she was a semifinalist for the 2020 James Beard Award, Best Chef Great Lakes, and was admitted to and participated in the James Beard Chef Bootcamp for Policy Change and Food Labs Detroit's Fellowship for Change in Food and Labor. Laura, also a graduate of the University of Michigan, is a manager at Zingerman's Delicatessen in Ann Arbor. She's been with them since 2003, and she was a key player in the development of their formal food allergy program, developed in 2012, and she continues to develop systems to safely serve guests with food allergies and other food intolerances and restrictions. Laura is also committed and continues with training to create a positive dining experience for all individuals. Thank you both so much for being with me today to give food allergic individuals tools for dining out safely. We know food is such an important part of life and relationships, and it's woven into culture, rituals, and celebrations. So preparing and sharing food and spending that time with people is a way to show love. It's a way we build connection. So I'm so glad you can be here today so we can discuss how to remove barriers so that people with food allergies feel that they don't have to miss out on this, sharing time and food and in going out to eat with family and being able to know how to keep themselves safe and have the skills to do that. We know it really is going to improve people's quality of life. So I'll just turn it over to both of you. If we can begin by addressing audience members who have had negative experiences and those who have avoided dining out of fear. What would you both say to those folks? And I see we have some poll results. What is the biggest worry regarding dining out? And we see the two shared concerns are my order won't be conveyed properly and the staff won't understand my needs. And then following those are hidden ingredients, certainly foods that might be unrecognized as being the allergen. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And also the restaurant won't have anything I can eat. What do you both think, I guess, seeing those poll results?
Okay, I guess I can start. I would say that the realities of the restaurant industry and dining out has evolved quite a bit in the past few years. So dietary restrictions, preferences, and allergies are actually very, very, very common. And if you are running a restaurant and you're not open to accommodating that, I think you're in minority and it's really not good for the business. And I think you should feel very comfortable talking about what it is that you need and want. it is your body at the end of the day, and then you're there to enjoy the food and have a great experience. And I don't think the restaurant is not on the, like, they're on the same page with you.
Yeah, so I would say, going off of what Ji Hye just said, communication is key. And there, in my mind, there's two aspects of that. It's my responsibility, it's our responsibility as a restaurant to communicate with our staff the systems and around what a food allergy is, how to handle our ingredients, to avoid cross contact, and to keep our food safe. I mean, that's the most important thing that we do as a restaurant. Not just for food allergies, but food in general. So there's the communication and training around that, and then communication in the moment when there is an order, and then the communication between the guest when you're placing the order. And I think it's, like Ji Hye was saying, it's common now, but it doesn't mean that it's not important. You know, making sure that that communication does take place, and we accurately capture it. Both of our restaurants are pretty specific as far as when we deliver it, making sure that it's accurate. But when that order is being placed, making sure that we've heard your concerns, and know what it is you want to eat, and making sure that it's communicated to the staff and then upon delivery.
So maybe it would be good for us to kind of walk through. So when someone comes through the door at the deli and they have allergies, let's say to dairy and peanut, what's the best way for them to communicate to the person that they speak to, who's the first point of contact, about those allergies, and also to communicate? So with our population with food allergies, they're life-threatening food allergies. So to convey that, the serious nature, what do you both think in terms of having that straightforward communication? How might somebody present that information to give themselves the best chance of being heard?
Laura, you want to go first about what?
Sure. Yeah. If you mentioning the word allergy as soon as possible, you know, we generally ask a question, you know, if you're getting delivery. So as soon as it comes to placing the actual order, saying the word allergy is our key to kind of start the process that you see on your screen. You know, there's times where if someone takes off all of the cheese or dairy-based sauces, you know, that might prompt us to ask. But for us, as soon as you feel comfortable, the easier it is for us to get a hold of our database and make sure we're looking it up, and to help work with you to find out something you'll hopefully love.
So how does that, we see the slide here, how does that work? What is the system in place at the deli?
So a guest alerts the salesperson that they have a food allergy. We have staff that have gone through, we call it a passport because it's essentially a multi-page checklist of training, and that are familiar with the resources available to look up ingredients, are familiar with the 8 major allergens. So they will reference any menu item, all of the sub ingredients, and they will actually write down on a piece of separate piece of paper, if there's 5 sandwiches and only one has an allergy, they'll write down that one allergy, take it away, cross-reference it, and then enter it as part of that order. The additional tag gets passed to the kitchen, so they have a heads up that it's coming, are able to connect it with the screen. I don't know if you want me to talk about the actual food preparation part, but
Sure. Why don't we go into that? I know that you do some really specific things your protocol so that to try to really eliminate cross-contamination?
So we only work or make one sandwich at a time. For a sandwich for a guest with a food allergy, it's all fresh ingredients. So if they order something on rye bread, it's a separate loaf of rye bread. It's taken to a different area of the kitchen. We use a different colored cutting board. Wash your hands, change your gloves. That bread is sliced and put on the cutting board with a separate knife, and then travels down the line. All of the ingredients will be on that cutting board. It's a different color from all of our other cutting boards, so it's clear that it's different or requires special attention. Anything that's grilled, the grill is cleaned and sanitized, and then all or any other ingredients are sliced and prepared separately. We mark the outside of the sandwich as well. So if you get just a bag of sandwiches and all of them are corned beef on rye, you know which one specifically has been prepared with separate utensils and ingredients that are handled separately. There's a big sticker on it.
Thank you.
And at Miss Kim, we kind of bake that into our training. So it just gets considered as part of providing really great service. So first thing we want to do is find out what the guest wants, and then it just baked right into it. And so we find out what the guest wants. They may want chicken and they may not want gluten on it. So it's just like consider the same thing. We provide a lot of visual cues. So when we have a menu, it will call out like most often inquired about things. So it will have gluten-free information, vegan or vegetarian, whether it has soy or not, nut information, that all goes on already on the menu. So I think when the guest comes in, immediately when they see the menu, I'm hoping that it would put them at ease, that we're very conscientious of it, and they should feel comfortable asking further questions about it if they do have information that goes beyond what the menu says. We have systems where we really encourage conversations. So like we ask questions like, is it an allergen? Is it an allergy or preference? Because we treat it differently. So if it's allergy, as soon as we hear the word allergy, just like Laura said, everything gets sanitized, everything gets wiped out, everything gets a new bowl and new utensils. And then that may be different than I prefer not to have sesame seeds. So like if somebody says, I'm allergic to sesame seeds, then we have further conversations about how prevalent sesame seed is in the kitchen, and then have the guest make that decision whether they're okay with that level of exposure or not. But if it's a preference, then we are happy to leave them out. And then we also made our internal system easy to execute. So for example, with the peanut allergy, we just decided that we're not going to have peanuts in the kitchen at all. So when somebody who has peanut allergy walks in and tells us that there's peanut allergy, we don't have it at the premise at all. So that's easy for cooks to execute because they don't have to do anything differently. We created gluten-free batter for all fried chicken and all fried tofu or all fried items. So immediately that makes our fryer gluten-free fryer, and we don't have to do anything differently. We have, like if we have cashews and somebody's allergic to tree nuts, we don't have it cooked into the sauce. It's almost always added at the end or as a garnish. So then it's easier to leave it off. So we try to create internal systems so that it's easy for cooks to do the right thing.
Yeah, hard to make a mistake is something that we talk about.
Yeah, yeah.
So that fits right in. We just had an audience member ask, can you comment on a time that, so if you've ever been working someplace, maybe it's not your current places, but where somebody did have an allergic reaction, and what had happened in that case?
I'll go. So the reason we have the system that we do currently, where you write down the orders, that we had a guest, a younger guest, and they had a dairy allergy, and they ordered a hot dog, a juice box, part of the kids meal, and the side of the chocolate pudding. And there were so many different things involved in that. You have to look at the bun. You have to make sure there's no, powdered milk in the hot dog, all the condiments that we serve with the hot dog, like going through that list. And it was during a really busy time that the person working with the guest just like completely forgot about checking the chocolate pudding. In that case, someone down the line caught it and was like, hey, I think the chocolate pudding has milk in it. So we were able to catch it before it went out. But it was one of those times where it was like, there's a problem here that this could go this far. I mean, this child could have been enormously sick. So that's why after that happened, we sat down and said, how can we stop this from happening again?
Thank you.
We also had a similar experience where there was a peanut allergy, and that's, I think, for first 6 months or so we had peanuts on the menu, and it's one of the biggest allergies that we want to avoid. And we had a cook that's brand new, and peanut allergy was shared, and he didn't put peanuts in them but did not change the utensil. And the manager was able to catch it, but that was very scary. So now we make sure that the cooks know to change it, and then the expediter, the manager in the kitchen, double checks that they're getting the new utensils and bowls, or physically gets them new utensils and bowls. But we also decided that we're just not going to have peanuts in the restaurant at all.
So it sounds like you both have a really responsive system to things that come up to be able to make changes. And I know our guests, our participants are going to want to know, so if, that's of course the gold standard. And when they're not sure sort of how much training or what the protocols are, what's a way to approach to sort of find that out when they are initially talking with a manager at a restaurant?
I'll go first.
Please, thank you.
Yeah. I would say, I want to piggyback on what Laura said about communication. Having a guest in a medical situation is definitely not what restaurants want, whether they have good systems or not, or very conscientious or not. So I think, if you go to any restaurant, I think communicating before your visit is welcome, or should be welcomed. And if it's met with apathy or non-communication from the restaurant's part, that should be a warning sign. And I actually talked to another chef about this before this webinar, and she's not part of Zingerman's, but she also said that when she gets a guest come in with a written information of what they can and cannot have, and then has that handed over to a server, so the kitchen can see the first-hand information instead of playing a phone tag.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really awesome for the kitchen to see. So I think any information, clear the better. Usually written is better if it's available, and I would not be shy about it. Yeah, I think that's usually super helpful.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
So so the chef cards where somebody's written down and they have copies to hand, that's useful. That sounds like that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
The past, go ahead, Laura.
I would say extremely useful, but not necessary. I mean, it's a huge aid in that communication.
Yeah. In the past, when I worked at other restaurants, where I saw frustration or confusion stem is when there's a not so clear communication going on. So if there's a server and it's at a restaurant where allergen training is not really done as thoroughly as at Zingerman's, and servers trying to find out what's okay and what's not okay. And I think people know this story of like, bring me a rock. So like, you know, somebody says, bring me a rock, and then the person brings a rock, and then the request person says, oh, not that rock, and not that rock, not that rock. And that's kind of hard. It's also difficult to, it's more difficult to accommodate someone who's like unclear about what they can and cannot have, and then starts dictating like, instead of this, I want to have this, and instead of that, and I want to have that. And that's challenging for the restaurant because the guest and even sometimes the server do not necessarily know what the kitchen has or does not have, and then what they can make or not make. So I think being really clear about what you need, and then the server having full information on what the kitchen can do, and then having that conversation and feeling comfortable about it, I think it's very important.
So that, oh, go ahead, Laura.
Oh, I was going to say, I saw one of the questions pop up. So one of the reasons we have a second person come in is part of our training for the Allergen Authority has you go through the ServSafe National Allergen course. So you're familiar with, you've gotten the training on what a food allergy is. And then we have a very deli specific test that follows that. So you're familiar with what our menu options are that kind of fit in those different classifications.
So we have this question about, she's writing on behalf of her 20-year-old son. He has a severe dairy allergy. He's now 20, but does not feel comfortable eating out. And she's asking, is dairy in many or any of the dishes at Miss Kim's?
That's an excellent question. We have dairy in a few of our dishes, but not a lot. And if it has dairy, it specifically actually says it on the menu and the dish name. So we will have miso butter squash, or we will have banana milk. So it's right in there in the name, and then it should be in the description as well that there is dairy in there. We don't really use, for example, I think sometimes butter is used when people saute, and we don't really use butter as the base fat for anything. And we also made sure that we don't use like peanut oil. So we try to find more allergen neutral base products to use. So like maybe not honey, but just cane sugar, or maybe not peanut oil, but canola oil.
So if he presented to a restaurant and said, I have a dairy allergy, what dishes are safe for me, that do not contain, and it might be helpful if he spells it out, any milk, any butter, what else might he have to say to make sure, dairy is one of those things that can be kind of hidden in.
Yeah. So I think if he was if he was trying to order from Miss Kim, he will be able to see right on the menu whether a product has dairy or not. But also we have a separate dairy-free menu that server can refer to. But it will still be helpful for him to kind of list the what kind of dairy he's allergic to. Like, more information is the better.
So Laura, if that person with a dairy allergy came into your restaurant, what would really help there to be complete clarity around, all the ways in which dairy can show up in food, and so that that person has some a comfort level around, you understand what I'm talking about when I say dairy allergy.
So please stop me if I'm not answering the question. So similar to what Ji Hye was just saying, we have, it's not on our sandwich menu, but the document that that people who are certified to handle this, every sandwich, it lists what the allergens are. And then there are alternates presented. So We have potato pancakes, and they're served with applesauce, and the applesauce has butter, so it's marked as not safe for guests with dairy allergies or milk allergies. But there's a note that says it is dairy-free without the applesauce or sour cream.
Right, because they certainly might not think to say, oh, is there dairy in the applesauce? So it sounds like you're very clear about the presentation of ingredients. Do customers ever ask to see, can I see the label? Can I see how does that work?
Yeah, I can actually take, if I can find it on here, I can take a screenshot of it so I can show it. It's in a different document, but we have all of our labels, a picture of all of our labels with the major sound of ingredients in the sandwiches. A lot of ingredients we do make, so we make our own ranch dressing. We cook our chicken in-house. So we have the recipe, we don't have a label. But yes, people are welcome to see. I mean, I would bring out a roasted turkey just to show the label. That's fully available. And I sometimes worry that we're just, overwhelming with too much information. So again, that's where the communication comes in, that if people ask to see a label, that is totally not a big deal at all.
Yeah, same at Miss Kim. We have recipe books that list all the ingredients right on the recipe book, and it's available for servers to just pull out and take a look at if they have to, or managers to look at. But we're also very happy to bring it out to the dining. We'll be embarrassed how it has food splatters, but we'll be more than happy to bring it out and show it to you. Yeah, and I think Miss Kim's sort of lucky in a sense that Korean food doesn't necessarily make a huge use of dairy, or gluten is not really that prevalent. If we can make that happen more traditionally, yeah.
So we also have a question. Is it safe using delivery services like DoorDash or Uber Eats when you have a food allergy? Do either of you have any thoughts on that you can share?
Yeah, I think by the time the packaged food goes to the DoorDash driver, all the food is sealed and in a bag. So I would assume that it's safe. I actually am not sure how the drivers are mixing different restaurants' food. So they may pick up our food and then they may pick up another restaurant's food. So I think that's a risk factor that you should consider, but you're getting the same care and safety as the same food when it leaves our door.
So I guess that raises the question, if they're ordering online, is it safe to order online, or would it be important to supplement with a phone call while ordering? Is there a spot to really specify when you're ordering online at both or either of your restaurants?
For our online order system, there's a notes section that you can write down any information you want to communicate. But if it's a severe allergy and you feel not quite comfortable just leaving the note, you're more than welcome to call and let us know in over the phone. So I usually are on the more communication than less communication. And my feeling is that if you're feeling kind of unsure about the safety of the food you're eating, you're not going to enjoy it as much as you would. Yes. So yeah, I would say go ahead and give us a call.
Laura?
Yeah, give us a call, send us an email. Both are.
And that's sort of the standard that they should expect. And if they get any pushback, that might be something for them to take into, do I really feel like there's been the communication needed for me to feel comfortable eating at this restaurant?
Yeah, so, I mean, we will, sometimes when there's a note under an item and we don't understand it, or they haven't, taken off an ingredient that does contain that, we'll call.
Yeah, same. We will call. So we take those notes very, very seriously. And when it gets printed, it gets printed right on the ticket, what the guest writes in the notes. So we get happy notes like thanks for the food, and we also get like no sesame please, sesame allergy. And it's important to us important for us to know if it's sesame seed or sesame oil, because seed is very small and it's everywhere. So we want to really make sure that what the parameters we're working with. So oftentimes when we see sesame allergy, we'll have someone call you and make sure that whether it's sesame seed, sesame oil, and how severe it is, and also that you understand that there is sesame seed in the kitchen pretty widely being used, and if you feel okay with that or not. So you will get a phone call if it's unclear to us.
So do staff have, or is it typical that there would be epinephrine kept at a restaurant? One of our viewing audience is asking.
I don't know if it's typical, but we do have that available. There's, yeah, it's different with COVID because people aren't eating here, but we still have them. I mean, we have staff who, there's someone who works on the line who's allergic to peanuts. There's someone else on the line who's allergic to all dairy. And it's important for us to have that available for them as well.
We unfortunately do not. And I would guess that a lot of restaurants actually do not have that available, especially these days.
Yeah. So I think, you know, that makes the point. It's really important people always come prepared on their end and have 2 epinephrine auto injectors with them. And if it's FPIEs rather than the IG mediated food allergy, to have the Zofran with them. So for their part, that communication, but also having their medication with them, just in the event something unexpected happens. So we have a question about, you know, one of the things I hear from kids and from teens is, I would feel embarrassed to ask the questions. I don't want to feel different. I don't want to be with my friends and be asking all of this. I don't want everyone looking at me. So that's a common stumbling block, I think. I don't want to feel different. I just want to be able to go and eat. And then since they know they have to ask the questions, then they'll say that they just don't want to go. So I'm always trying to help them work through this idea of asking the questions, kind of through practice, getting over this idea that it's going to be such a horrible thing. And once they have a few positive experiences, maybe that they won't care so much. But so have you seen that be an issue that could be a barrier for people? Do you think people do feel embarrassed, show, you know, some embarrassment that they either don't want people to be annoyed with them, they don't want to take up your time, or they just wish that they didn't have food allergies and have to talk and deal with them?
For us, when we were putting the menu together, even before the restaurant opened, I think one of the designers that was helping us had strict allergies, and she was vegan, so that also meant like no dairy, no eggs, and she was very open about how she felt when she went to the restaurant, and she was an introvert and she felt very uncomfortable. So from that interaction, we really try to make sure that there's a lot of information available even before they have to ask. And also that if they see a lot of information already available, it would put them at ease. But I will also say that it's just really common. It's not a unique or singular experience. It's very, very, very common. And it's not just allergens, it's also like preference as well. And we treat it in the same way, in a sense that interaction is comfortable, whether it's allergy or preference. We treat it very differently in the kitchen on how sanitary and clean it is. But I think you should feel comfortable, because there's so many people. I would say more than a quarter of the tickets will have like some sort of a question or request related to allergen or preference on it. So for restaurant, for you, it's an experience you have when you go out. For restaurant, it's like an everyday thing that we have to deal with.
So that's a really helpful way for them to think about it. It may feel funny for me, but this is something that they hear all the time. They're used to it.
Right. And it's just as I don't want to, compare feelings, but it's also important for us that we hear that information. So I can hear that, the anxiety that would possibly be associated with it. But coming from someone who's going to be preparing something for you to eat, I want that to be, it's important for me to know that, because it's important for me to make your food safe. So we've had a situation where, because it was taking longer to get that information, there was another guest behind them that was like making like, come on. I mean, the deli can have a really long line, and it's our responsibility, not the guest with the food allergies responsibility, to manage that situation. So if another guest is frustrated, or if there's a staff person that is not conducting themselves correctly, that's our responsibility, and that shouldn't, hopefully we've done our work before that to provide an experience that is going to be positive and collect that information.
And I think it's it's a different experience when there's a full service, table service, because you don't have to deal with somebody behind the line feeling anxious, and then that impacts your mood. But I would also say that it's extremely common for restaurants to open that line of question even before you say anything. So when I used to go out to restaurants, it wasn't uncommon for servers to go like introduce themselves and then say like, does the table have any dietary restrictions or allergies that we should be aware of, or the kitchen should be aware of? That's pretty common practice these days.
And we just heard from a viewer, along with the example of dairy, would a customer need to say dairy, so I need to, and then really be specific, so I need to avoid yogurt, butter, because some think it's just milk?
Not at Miss Kim, but I don't see how that would hurt. Yeah.
Not at the deli, but yeah, I mean, there have been times when guests have asked if there's like powdered milk in the hot dogs. Those questions are completely appropriate. But yeah, I would say both for Ji Hye and the deli, that's an understood.
So I liked the point that you made about, it's a really good point that it's not the food allergic person's job to keep the line moving. It's not their job to worry about and manage how do other people feel if I need extra time ordering. And thank you for speaking to that. So I think that weighs on people. Their concern of, is this annoying to other people? I don't want to take up time, but I think it's really important, the perspective that you gave. It just needs to be normalized. They just need to do what they need to do. And it is so common. And if somebody else, around them, other customers, they don't have to pay attention to that. And they deserve to take as much time as they need to feel safe. And they have every right to be there and get to share the experience of going out and enjoying. Right. Yeah. So I think that is something for the younger patients that I work with, they start avoiding because of it. And then it's hard to then, when they're older, to start doing something that they don't have that sense of competency about. So, some have told me, I'm just going to cook for myself. I'm never going to be a person that goes to restaurants. I absolutely can't eat out safely. So I'm just going to learn to cook. And so I push a little bit around. So, someday, let's say you have your own family or you live with people. What if other people want to go out? Are you just going to miss out in case other people don't want to eat at home? What might you miss out on over the course of your life? And it becomes really clear, they'll miss out on a lot. There's a lot of celebrations that are held at restaurants. And so it's a really big, fraught kind of topic for them. But I hope that we can give them, these are steps you can take, and even if it feels uncomfortable,
just be on screen, it's fine.
Keep trying, because it's worth it. To have these positive experiences and to be at restaurants where they truly do welcome you and want you to be there.
Yeah, I totally agree because, you know, I obviously love restaurants. I have one, but the joy of like, maybe not right now, but the joy that comes with celebrating and the conviviality of like hanging out together and going out and trying different food and having new experiences. I think you don't want to miss out on that. And I think the reality is that I think restaurant owners don't want you to miss out on that either.
I did see a reference. So in FAIR, Food Allergy Research Education Group, it was something, a huge amount of money that restaurants believe that they lose out on because food allergic people don't feel comfortable eating at restaurants. So as an industry, it certainly also seems something that you don't want people to not be coming in because they feel like there aren't any protocols in place. And you're not going to know that things have changed and that people are increasingly educated if you don't reach out and have these conversations.
Right. I mean, sharing food is part of making a great community, not just in restaurants, but in a lot of different aspects of life. So it makes me really sad to think that people there would be obstacles that we have that are preventing that. And like you just said, communicating in advance. There are a lot of different creative people. I just saw one of the questions that popped up. A lot of creative people work in restaurants and do produce, could replicate to some extent. I mean, we can make a Reuben with yellow mustard instead of the Russian dressing and take off the Swiss cheese. So you do get the sauerkraut and the corned beef and the awesome grilled rye that you can have alongside your friends who have cheese on their sandwich.
Yeah, it's actually, yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, sometimes it's kind of exciting to try to, like, if you're a creative type, some of your best work can come from having a little bit of a structure and boundaries and limitations. Then your creative energy starts firing, and all we really want to do is provide really delicious food for you. And if you cannot have honey, we have 3-4 different kind of sweeteners that we can use that's not honey. I see a question on the cocktails as well. We follow the same process for cocktails and specialty items as well. So, you know, tell them you cannot have honey, and then we can add simple syrup or rice syrup or plum syrup. Yeah, there are many options.
So I'm sure that there's more that I haven't asked. What are, from your experiences with guests, what are other things that you come up that things you've learned over time, both of you, in terms of, from your experiences, what you would want people to understand, and how some things that you've seen people do extremely successfully for themselves when they've, with food allergies, when they've come to your restaurants, but also times that you saw maybe, that the person with food allergies didn't necessarily present kind of their concerns or the life-threatening nature of their condition in a way that really served them. So kind of the things that people do that really work well, and then the things that you've seen that you would caution people to just really, learn a lesson from that, and maybe try to use the skills that you've seen that really work for people.
I think we already covered a lot. So I think, yeah, open communication. I think that goes on both ends, because one of the things that we discovered was that a lot of soy products have wheat in them. So we make sure, and I am lucky enough to read Korean. So not only do I read the translated English ingredient list, but I also read the Korean ingredient list. So I make sure that the soy products that we bring in do not have wheat as an active ingredient. And then I also did some more research and found out that even products, even like soy sauce or like chili paste that do not list wheat as an ingredient has like starter for the fermentation, and a lot of those starters are derived from wheat. I don't know what that means, and I don't know how it will impact gluten allergy people, but I train the staff to tell the guests that information, and then they can make the decision, because we don't want to presume that we know more about your health requirements than we do, and then the guests can make the safe decision. So like having like the frank, honest conversation works, and being really frank about what the kitchen can or cannot do. And we have that information actually available for the server off the bat. Like what, not only do we have menu information on what dishes are like has dairy in it or not, and we also have the information whether the dairy can be taken off or and what it will be substituted with. So we also provide a lot of information for the servers to work with the guests. So yeah, I would say talk to us.
Yeah, advanced communication. Both Ji Hye and myself have provided email addresses, but reaching out in advance of a vacation or a meal out is totally asking questions like, you know, can you walk me through the basic steps of how a menu item is prepared, or if I, you know, substitute smoked turkey on the sandwich or on the salad, is that, you know, would I be adding dairy into my meal? All that is a great, more than happy to help take that step to make the experience more comfortable. The thing that I would advise against, and it's it was happening frequently for a while when there were people in the restaurant, but they were embarrassed to say that they had an allergy when they ordered, so they would wait until after the order was already entered and come back and say, hey, I'm gonna need my sandwich on gluten-free bread or without bread. And it's not a problem, but the whole experience for service is helped the earlier that it's mentioned in the conversation.
Yeah, we're trying when everybody else is eating together.
Right. And yeah, it would just, I totally understand that, like, you don't want to say in front of your friends or family that, like, you can't eat it, or like you're worried about holding up the line. But again, that's our trying to normalize that it's not your responsibility to manage that.
I think that's an excellent point. And I love that, you know, you really modeled that conversation. This is a way to ask those questions, or, so if I have this, or if we do this, would that be safe for me? And could we see the slide that show the chef cards? I think that would be useful. Not everybody in our audience is going to be familiar with the chef cards. So there are multiple sites that you can go to for free, and there's multiple versions of chef cards, and you can tailor them with your allergies. And let's take a look. So you can tailor them. You can print out as many copies as you want, and then carry them with you. So you can hand them to the first person you're talking to at the restaurant, or if you are at a friend's house, or if you are staying somewhere unfamiliar where food is being served, and or you're around people. This is a way for you to communicate from, you know, your needs to people who are going to be extremely educated on food allergies, and to those who may have no knowledge or really some misconceptions. So it's a way to clarify. You know, they really are very clear about it being a severe and life-threatening reaction, life-threatening condition. So the chef card very clearly states, this is not a preference or an intolerance, it is a life-threatening condition. So that's helpful to communicate the gravity. And then you could specify, so I created this card, that specifies peanut, sesame, and dairy. You could include any of the foods, all of the foods, and you could hand this as a start, a way to launch the conversation or to refer to if you're calling and ordering. So I have an allergy, and you could read this, if you're feeling nervous, if you're not sure how to express, the chef card could also help you with the language around that. So it's important for me to avoid, I have a life-threatening food allergy. So would any of my food contain peanut, sesame, or dairy, or come into contact with? So then it starts a conversation also around that cross contact, and what are you equipped to do to make sure that my food is safe? How will you communicate with the chef about my food allergies? So if you are calling, that might be a great question. So you're talking to somebody who's taking your order. You might want to ask, so where does this information go? Are you going to be communicating with a manager who will communicate with the person who's making my food? Or are you going to be talking directly? Because, of course, we want to eliminate, and any opportunity where something might be misinterpreted or not communicated. So you might, how do both of you feel about, like, if somebody says, may I speak to the manager directly? Is that ever an issue? I know it's something that, we recommend. If you're feeling nervous or unsure, ask to speak to the manager and ask these questions around who's going to facilitate the safety of my food, and will you be the person who really oversees the whole process? Is that ever, would you think that would be an issue?
No. That's sort of what the managers are for. So it's part of their job. and I have even walked out of the kitchen to talk through the menu with someone, because the server asked for help when even the guest didn't even ask for it specifically. So like I said, usually general rule of thumb is that more communication is better. And if that means that you have to include a manager in it, I'd say go for it.
Thank you. And if they get any pushback to, some people have heard, oh, the manager's really busy right now, you can just tell me. If they hear something that doesn't really give them the impression that somebody is really listening or is going to take the time to ensure that communication is good, that might be a sign, this is not a place right now that I'm going to try. But so I do like that we can reinforce to people that's not their concern. And if somebody says, we don't have the time for that, well, then they have to take that into consideration, whether or not they feel comfortable.
Yeah, I think, yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that a server may be saying that because they're looking out for you in their mind. So the server may be saying the manager's really busy right now because they're thinking that they're looking out for you and your time. And that may not be what you're caring about. You care more about the safety. So I would feel totally comfortable saying oh, we don't mind waiting a little bit. We'll wait. And if your request to speak to a manager is rejected even then, I would say that's a red flag.
Yeah, for not just for people with food allergies. I mean,
any request, yeah.
Oh, thank you. I know we are at the end of our time, and we so appreciate both of you. We know you're really busy, and we know there's a lot going on right now, and we really appreciate you taking the time and preparing and coming here to be with us, because this is not something that everybody has access to this information, and we really love the fact that we were able to get the conversation going and get these ideas out there so that people understand there there are safe ways to work through their fears around eating out, and they shouldn't miss out.
Thank you so much for having us and for inviting us. This is a great
well.
conversation and super important to have. So thank you for including us.
Can I take just one quick second?
Please.
For the question about, I guess the question is a restaurant charge from $2 extra charge. General rule of thumb for us, and I think this may also apply to the deli, is not necessarily whether food, making the food safe for you, should there be a charge. I mean, we're supposed to serve safe food regardless of what your requirement is. That's just part of what we have to do. Public health is part of our job. Usually for us, the question of extra charge or not is whether there's extra stuff going in or not. So you want extra cheese? Yeah. And that information should be upfront.
Right. So our gluten-free bread costs more money than regular bread to make. So there is a extra charge. So we communicate that, and we have other options that are no additional cost that we could switch to. It's, again, like Ji Hye said, the important part is to communicate it up front. For that to be a surprise is not good.
Yeah, like I said, you should feel comfortable that it's part of the restaurant's job to serve safe food and not make you sick.
Possibly the most important.
Yes.
Thank you. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know this is really going to benefit our audience and the work that the clinic does. So on behalf of the Weiser Center, thank you everybody for being with us today. Thank you for making the time to tune in. Please check out FAIR that I mentioned. They do a tremendous amount for people with food allergies, and they are having an opportunity for teens coming up this Saturday. So at 5 o'clock this Saturday, the 27th, and you can register at foodallergy.org. So it's an opportunity for teens to connect with other teens, and they do this monthly. So they call it Virtual Teen Talk. It's for ages 11 to 22. It will be moderated by an adult food allergy informed moderator. And the idea is we want to find these opportunities for kids with food allergy to talk with one another, to normalize their experiences. Everything we were just talking about was about validating and normalizing the experiences of food allergic people so that you can see your way through potential barriers. And so teens talking, preteens and teens talking with one another about the experiences they're having or things that are coming up in their life is a very important thing. To talk to somebody who has a shared lived experience as yourself is it's incredibly useful, and it helps people to remember they are not so different. They are not, there are people who are dealing with exactly what they're dealing with. So please check out that opportunity. If you can't catch it this month, it would be an opportunity to sign up for next month. So foodallergy.org. And there's also an email address, and we'll send this out in our follow-up. It's MENGEL@foodallergy.org if you're interested in finding out more. On behalf of the Weiser Center, we thank you so much for being with us today. Please stay for a few minutes while I lead a practice for stress management. If you're able to stay a little after 1, we'd love to have you. So as we finish up our talking today and our discussion, let's just take a quiet moment, coming back to an opportunity just to sit comfortably, close your eyes. Bring your attention to your breath, just noting where in your body you feel your breath. Perhaps in your chest, perhaps in your abdomen. Just bring all of your attention to the feeling of the inhale and the exhale. As we slow down, taking some deep inhales and slow exhales. Coming back again and again, following your breath with your mind, picturing yourself, following the breath, bringing your focus again and again. When your mind goes to something else, some thought or idea, just gently bring it back. See if you can focus again on where you feel the breath. Slowing down, coming back, grounding yourself into your body, out of the thinking mind. Our minds tend to want to jump ahead, and they tend to be thinking about the next thing or thinking about something that's already happened. So this is an opportunity just to come back and be in the present moment. Let's count to 10 slowly while we breathe in and breathe out. Counting to 10 at the end of each exhale, continuing to let the mind focus on the breath. Counting at the exhale, working your way up to 10. Slowly, no need to jump ahead. Just allowing yourself to come more deeply into the breath, deepening the inhale and slowing the exhale. This is a practice you can use anytime during your day. If you're working remotely, doing virtual school, just taking a moment, checking in with yourself, noticing, where's your mind? Is it focused on what's happening right now? Or is it frantically thinking of the next thing? Mindfulness offers us the opportunity to come back with present moment awareness. Using our breath as the anchor of that awareness, we can come back again and again to find our breath. Thank you. Have a great day.